Hey everybody, Andy here again for another episode 11 of our journey into Jass. Now I have to confess, you may notice, don't know, it's been well over a year since I recorded one of these, various reasons, but a lot's happened since the last episode 10, so my hair has gone slightly sandier than it used to be. I have more wrinkles, probably, beard's a little bit longer, and I've shaved it in between, by the way. And we had an election in the UK. There you go, that's big news, but probably old news by the time you watch this, and I'm not doing politics. So let's move on. What hasn't changed is Jass. It's a constant in life. And so, yeah, Jass hasn't changed. So what we can do is pick up from where we left off last time, which is convenient, isn't it? So that's what we're going to do. So I've gone through in the past 10 episodes how to do a coiffeur and different calls. Now I've totted up, added all of those up, and I actually make it that we've got 17 different calls that I've gone through. If you count all of the four trumps as separate ones, you've got a top down, a bottom up, misère, slalom, 5-4, middle, Surchaudura, the top down from anywhere, the bottom up from anywhere, the Jack 9, the Rio Red, the Rio Black, Saint Ligier and Joker. Now in addition, when we're doing the coiffeur, we also usually add in a Joker, which means you could do any of the above, any of the other things that's on your list that you're going to do in that coiffeur for that game that you're playing. So you could do 18 different rounds, hands to play. But bear in mind, both teams have to play them, so that's 36 hands that you're going to play in one game. And if you allow 5 minutes per hand, that's 3 hours, which is quite a long game. So what we tend to do is, rather than doing that full list, is we'll condense them into a shortened list. So you end up with something like, I think a good number, 7, 8, 9, 10, that sort of range of hands to play. Gives you a good hour and a half game, which seems to work really well from my point of view, whatever ticks your box. So I'm going to put on screen up here a suggested list of what sort of thing that I would tend to play, how I would tend to mix that up a bit. So I've got the red trump, which is like heart or diamond, so you would be able to choose one of those. Black trump, spade or club. Twana up or down, so top down or bottom up from anywhere that you want. You do one or the other. Misère, Jack 9 or Rio, middle or Saint Ligier, slalom or 5-4. Those pairings seem to work really well as far as I think. And then elephant kind of sits on its own. And then Joker. Joker normally goes down at the bottom with the highest multiplier. So on that example, multiplier of 9. So first thing really is, what things do we want to put in our coiffeur? And then the second thing is, how do you want to sequence them? What order do you want to put them in? Because obviously the multiplier has a big impact, right? So you could do really well on a high scoring game and pretty rubbish on the others and yet still win. So I've just got a little example there with the same listing but with some scores in, where you can see AR, which I think was Andy and Rob, as I recall, only won one of the rounds, the Joker, because we got a match in the Joker, and we lost all of the other rounds, but we still won in total. So we ended up with 640 points, and Gisela and Joshua ended up with 623. That's not a real example, by the way, just to make it clear. It's made up, I confess. So there you go. So choose carefully what sequence, what order you want to put them in. The one I will pick out on that is the misère. So when I started playing Jass, I should say, we tended to put misère quite low down, just happened that way. And I was always rubbish at misère. I don't know if I told you that when I did that episode, right? But I always used to do really bad at misère. As did Gisela, my wife, and so whenever we played together, it was just a disaster, right? And it would always count like 8 or 9 times, and so we'd always lose because we'd have a rubbish one on a high multiplier. So since then, what we've tended to do is pull misère higher up the list, so it's a lower multiplier. So 4, 3, 4, something like that is better, in my opinion. Even though I'm quite redeemed from my failure to play a misère, and I'm a little better at it these days. But I would still put it higher up because it's quite volatile. Your partner can just wreck it for you, not intentionally, just by accident, just because of the cards they've got. Okay, so choose which ones you want to put in. Put them in a sensible order, and away you go. A few little tactics for us. So our low multiplier ones, they can be good to, if you can, save until you're desperate. So like you're in the swinger, in the prison, right? So you've gone round, you might be a few hands into it, and suddenly you're in swinger and you've got a completely rubbish hand, right? It's good to have a cheap one. My default is if I'm in the swinger and I've got a completely rubbish hand, nothing to do, I will just go for a cheap one. Even if I've only like got 2 trumps, 2 hearts or 2 diamonds or something like that, I'll just go with those. And if I make 30 points, I'd rather get 30 points on a 1 time than 60 points on a 8 times, right? Because you get 60 on a 8 times, when you multiply it out and your opposition's got a reasonable score on that one, you're really going to be struggling. So my advice, go cheap, right? If you're struggling, and that means, I don't know, if you've got like 5 for sure on a diamond trump, I probably wouldn't go red trump if it's early in the game, right? Even though that might be your best call and it's a reasonable hand, I probably wouldn't choose that because you might want that red trump as a cheap one later on in the game. So tactically, think about when you're going to call each of these. And the flip side of that is the joker, which is really expensive. So that's the highest multiplier. And that works both ways. So I find joker really interesting, right? Because it's a good get out of jail because you could do any of the calls. So that's an easy one. But it's also worth the highest because you usually put the joker at the bottom of the list, so the highest multiplier. So you've got to figure that out for yourself, really. Again, it's that, I mean, tactically, I'm making you aware of that little wrinkle, but you just have to feel that for yourself of when are you going to call that joker. You know, you can't really talk to your partner in the moment and go, oh, I've got 6 for sure and 2 maybes. What do you think I should do? Can't really do that. You can have that discussion beforehand maybe, but the game is quite dynamic. It changes as you're working through it. So you've just got to feel your way through and do what you think is best. That's the nature of the game, really. That's part of the gameplay, isn't it, as we're going through it. So which ones, which call do you make? How many masters or box are you going to want in order for you to call? As I say, it probably depends where you are in the game. Probably at the start of a game, I'd probably want a few more masters to make a call. Later on in the game, you're getting a bit desperate, especially if you've not got any cheap ones left. So you might kind of go with a few less masters and still make a call. Again, it's one just to feel your way through. There's no hard and fast rule. It's just one to be aware of. Another thing I would say, another little tactic, I would tend to get the difficult ones out of the way first if I could. So things like, I think Jack 9, Rio, Misère, you could argue, they're all quite pretty tricky, right? So it's good to get them out of the way and done with. So if I've got a reasonable Jack 9, I probably need fewer masters on a Jack 9 and than I would on a trump, because I know it's going to be difficult. I know Jack 9 is going to be hard, so I'd go with fewer masters. Jack 9, as I probably alluded to in that episode as well, just be careful because you could have like 3 jacks and 3 9s that don't match up quite, and that you think, oh great, I've got 6 tricks, but they're worth no points. So it's only if they're pulling points that you actually do well with it anyway. As opposed to, you might do a Jack 9 if you've got a Jack 9 Ace King and a Jack 9 in something else. That's a bit more because you know that you're going to get all the tricks from one of the suits. So you're going to get the Ace, the 10 and the 8 maybe. So that's worth more points. But anyway, that's a bit more of a Jack 9 tip as opposed to the Coiffeur. Yeah, so you could, as I say, you could end up winning just one of the hands and still win the whole thing. It's a weird one. But that's the fun of the coiffeur. When I first started doing coiffeur, I thought that's weird. I don't like it. Everything should be worth the same. But actually, once you get into it and you get the feel of it, it's another level. It's another layer of the onion on the Jass onion. Another layer of the Jass onion, isn't it? Where it's another aspect of the game that you just got to get used to, and keeps it a little bit interesting. So there you go. That's the next level coiffeur guide, instruction, tips and tactics. Hope you found that useful. Thank you all for watching. Great to get some of the comments. Someone made a comment, forgive me, I can't remember their name, that this series was binge worthy, which I thought was fantastic. Brilliant. I'm going to sell it to Netflix and see what happens. So thank you for that. Thumbs up. Subscribe if you like. There's quite a few subscriptions. My first video, get this, over 5,000 views. I don't get it. Brilliant. I'm just sat here doing these videos. 5,000 people have watched it. Playing Jass now, I hope. You know, it's spreading. People, we're going to take over the world for the Jass people. Anyway, bless you. Have fun playing Jass, and see you all soon. Bye bye.